Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're finally going to be taking a look at the AMD 7970 3GB graphics card. Obviously the replacement for the 6970 is finally here. Well, this is the first of 4 videos that I'm going to be doing, and I've kind of broken up the content for all 4 videos into a lot of different ones. This one we're going to be taking a look at the VTX 3D 7970, and we're going to be doing stock performance on both the old rig and the new rig. And by the old rig I mean the Assassin rig that I used to use for my graphics card reviews. And we're going to be doing that against the new bench rig, which is the Rampage 4. So we're going from 1366 over to 2011. But the good thing about that kind of transition as well is it means that I can test PCI Express 2 against PCI Express 3, and we can see if the PCI Express 3 on the graphics card really is needed, because there was a lot to talk, a lot of confusion and stuff about PCI Express 3 support and all that kind of stuff with the other boards. So this is a chance to see whether you really did need to be all hurrying out there to get Gen 3 support with your boards. Is it really going to make any difference? So we're going to be covering that. But in the other videos, we're going to be doing another one where we're going to be doing overclocking and Eyefinity. That's going to be on another card. And then we're going to be doing crossfire in another video. And then right at the very end, we're going to be doing a quad fire video. But anyway, I'm going to move on now. I'm going to show you the 2 rigs. I've obviously got the new one behind me, but I'm going to show you the 2 rigs that we're going to be testing on today, and then we'll flick through a lot of the benchmarks. And what we'll do is we'll go old rig benchmark, and then we'll come straight in with a new rig benchmark so that we can compare the 2. I did originally say that I was going to do the same with the games as well, but I'm not going to do that now, and you'll see why in a little minute. But yeah, I'm just going to box on with this, and then we'll do the conclusion right at the very end. Right then, peeps, a look at the old rig first. Basically what we're going to do is compare the frames per second between the 2, and basically the old rig is the old 1366 system with an i7-950 in it at 200 × 20 for a 4 GHz overclock. We've got 6 GB of Mushkin Redline Ridgeback there, running at 68624 1600 MHz. NZXT Havoc cooler, all nestled on a Gigabyte G1 Assassin. Corsair AX750 power supply in the Cooler Master Stormtrooper. And yeah, obviously we're going to be taking a look at the VTX 3 or the VTX 7970. So yeah, this is the old rig. Now this is where the video is going to get a bit confusing, because we're going to cut over to the new rig now, which obviously I'll be recording later. And then we'll be switching throughout. But yeah, that's the look at the old rig. Right then, peeps. Then a look at the new test rig. Main difference is obviously we've gone up to 2011. We've got a 3960X CPU. That's all hanging off of a Rampage 4 Extreme motherboard, which is obviously PCI Express 3. Although we can turn the PCI Express 3 off, as it's not on the chipset, and we can turn it the actual PCI Express 3 support off, and then it goes down to the PCI Express 2, which is on the chipset. But anyway, cooling is a Corsair H100, and the fans on it and the new Noctua NF F12 direct flow fans. Memory is Corsair GTX 8 2400 MHz. Although my CPU won't let it run at 2400, and it is the CPU that's the limiting factor as well. So we're running at 2133 at 910 924. Power is a Corsair AX 1200 watt, which is silly massive overkill. But I just keep it on there because obviously that gives me the ability to run multiple cards and all that kind of stuff. Mega overclocks, when I am running big cards and all that kind of stuff when needed, rather than having to keep swapping out for a smaller one. Because obviously power efficiency isn't necessarily my top priority, and it's just handy to have it all there at once. So there we are. We're going to be comparing the old and the new to see if how much difference the new CPU makes, but also if there's any real PCI Express 2/3 differences. So we'll see how we get on. So I suppose now really we should just break straight into some benchmarks and go straight into 3D Mark 11. I'm going to start off with the older rig, and then we'll cut in with the newer rig, and we'll go through it like that throughout the whole video. Right then peeps, we are on the old rig at the moment, but just to cover some of the basics, obviously the 7970, for those of you that didn't know, it actually comes with 3 GB of onboard video RAM, and the core clocks, as you can see there in, AMD Overdrive, are 925 for the core, 1375 for the memory, and then you've also got a fan speed controller that you can do there, so you can enable it for manual, although most of you I think probably set your own fan profiles up rather than just setting it manually, unless you're not really going to be using it very much, or you just want to keep it extra cool. And then at the bottom you've also got power control settings, which just says -20 and +20, and that's kind of a percentage. As far as I'm aware, that's for the card to use if it wants, rather than a static clock. But anyway, those are the options there. Now if I just max the 2 sliders out, just to let you know what they go to in Catalyst Control Center with the reference BIOS on the card, you can go up to 1125 on the core and up to 1575 on the memory. Now we're going to cover overclocking in the next video, because we're just going to do stock cards for this one and compare the old rig and the new rig. So look out for the overclocking video in what will be the power color video. But yeah, that's that for now. I'm going to break off now and start running some benchmarks. Right then peeps, first one out of the box on the old rig is 3D Mark 11 with a score of P-score of 7,940. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut straight across to the score on the newer 2011 system, and we'll keep swapping backwards and forwards like that. Right then guys, first of the scores from the newer rig, so this is the 2011 based rig, and the P-score is 8,205. Now that's up from 7,940, so we've got, give or take, about 255 extra points. Now, yeah, I am right there, sorry, I'm completely fried. 255 extra points, which really isn't as much as I was really expecting, so pretty much, I pretty much put that down to the CPU and say that we're pretty much on level pegging, graphics card wise. There's no, if there was an extra 2,000 points there or something, we may be talking a little bit more leg room with the graphics card, but I honestly think that's a pretty fair one there, and a lot closer gap than I was expecting. But let's move back now to the old rig and do an X score. So back on the old rig, and we've got an X score for a single card at stock, remember, of 2,712. Now I'm not going to keep telling you that we're going to go backwards and forwards, but we'll now nip over to have a look at the new rig. So onto the new rig again, and we've got an X score of 2763. Now that's only up from 2712 on the old rig. So we've got there's not much of a performance boost there at all. So again, I'm going to say that's all down to the CPU really. So the scores are very, very close. So our first Vantage score on the old rig, we've got a P score of 29,664. Okay, first of the Vantage scores on the newer rig. And we've got a P score of 36,585. That's up from 29,664 on the older rig. But Vantage is very much more of a CPU based benchmark, and you can see basically the old system was 24,613 for the CPU score. On this one we've got 47,151 on the CPU score. So the big boost there, really, you can see straight away, it's just a CPU bump. It's not really anything to do with the graphics. I think 3D Mark 11 is a lot more of a heavily graphics dependent benchmark. It's a lot fairer. But anyway, let's move swiftly on to doing an X score on the old rig. Right, back to the old rig with Vantage X. We've got a score of 17,472. And obviously there underneath you can see the GPU score is 17,000 and then the CPU score is 24,647. Right then, X score now on the newer system. We've got a score of 17970, so 17,970, and that's only up from 17,476 on this one. Although the CPU scores were massively different. The old CPU score was 24,647, whereas this one is 47,719. But it hasn't made that much more difference on the end score. So really on that X score you can see that it really is a lot closer with this, and obviously this one's a lot more graphics dependent. It's not so heavily weighted towards the CPU with this test. So the point I'm trying to get across is it's massively tight. You're not getting any, I hate using this word, but bottlenecking. The graphics card is getting to use everything that it possibly can do. But anyway, let's move on to a Unigine run. Right then peeps, Unigine result on the old rig, frames per second 68.4, score is 1722, that was with a minimum frames per second of 33.6 and a maximum frames per second of 159.0. Now don't forget this is just an open and run Unigine, we've not made any changes to the configuration whatsoever. And the resolution is 1920 by 1080, but let's see how much of a difference it makes when we get it on the 2011 rig. Right then peeps, on to Unigine. So we've got a 79.9 frames per second. That's up about 11 frames per second on the old rig, and then we're 2014 points up from 1722 on the old rig. So we're looking at about a 300 points increase with the score, with it just open and run, which again really isn't that much of a difference when you consider the extra power that CPU does bring. So it just goes to show that they are relatively well matched. Obviously, you know what I mean, it has made a bit of a difference there, but not a humongous amount. Now, what I'm going to do is crack now straight on with some games. Right then peeps, I know you're going to all moan that the game's going to be at different places, but I really can't do anything about that. So I'll do the best that I can. Now we're running the game completely maxed out. Oh, somebody killed him for me. Where the Jesus? Right, as you can see, I'm not very good at Battlefield, and I don't mind admitting it either. But you can see up in the top left-hand corner, we'll give it another crack. You can see in the top left-hand corner the frames per second, and also the GPU usage, which is quite handy. We'll give it another crack. I can never remember what the button for crouching is. I know some of you will tell me now. Oh, and I'm dead again. I'm not going to bother. Anyway, you can see the frames per second now with very healthy frames per second. Obviously, this is with a stock card as well, which needs remembering. What I'm going to do now, for something different, I'm actually going to show you how much memory, video memory, is being used. Right then, peeps. I've been recording what video memory was used, because obviously this is a 3GB card. I just wanted to show you that Battlefield, although we didn't get to get really deep into it or anything like that, it's actually used here. You can see total memory usage was 1412 megabytes. You can also see that all the clocks have gone up. We had a maximum temperature in there of 67 degrees, although we didn't really get going. And also like the fan speed has kind of just hovered around the 33% mark, and we did get 100% load on the graphics card at one point as well, because this is just all recording the maximums. I just thought I'd give you this just so that you can see what is done with a 1920 by 1080 screen. Obviously you will use more memory the higher the resolution, so the bigger your screen gets, the more video buffer memory, or frame memory, whatever you want to call it, you're going to need. But this is what it's using with a single 24-inch 1920 by 1080 screen. But it's time now to go and have a look at how the game plays on the 2011 rig. Right then, peeps, Batman. Now this it's quite difficult for me to see from where I'm sat down here. In fact, I'll sit back a little bit further. But as you can see, we've got frames per second there of around 30 frames per second with about 97%, 99% GPU usage. So it is maxing it out. We're just not really doing very much with it at the moment. Now, it does play, can stutter a bit. Oops, what have I done? There we go, right. Yeah, it can stutter a bit. It's more, I mean, we know a lot of graphics cards are having a problem with this game. So it's just one of those things that hopefully they'll fix it. Maybe they've made it like stupidly badly coded. So it's actually, do you know what I mean? It takes a real powerhouse to play it. But it's not really anything bad to be said about the 7970 at all. It's very easy to play it. Even when the frames per second drop a bit, it's a bit like when Crysis first came out. You can still play really easily. Probably got a good hit on me then. Anyway, I'm just going to be button bashing to do this, but anyway, peeps, I'm going to leave this here. Right then, guys, as you can see, I've been recording all the highest settings that the card's been running at while it was playing that, and we got up to 69 degrees with the GPU temperature, although it probably would have got a bit longer if we played for a bit longer. 36% fan speed. Obviously it went up to 100% GPU load. But also you can see there with a 24-inch screen, 1920 by 1080, it only used 1194 megabyte of the video memory. Right then, peeps, on to Metro. Again, this is quite difficult for me to see from down here, but I'll try my best. Very healthy frames per second there in that top right or top left, wherever you want to look. It's really difficult from where I'm sat to see what's going on. How the hell did I miss him when he jumped past where I was shooting? That's impossible. Right, have some of that. Right, it's time to die. He beats me off, as he does every time. So we'll end this one here and go and have a look at the memory usage. Right then peeps, again you can see I've been recording the all the heights, everything. And really the thing that we want to be looking at there is the GPU temperature went up to 70 degrees and the fan speed went up a little bit more, up to 36%. GPU load obviously 100%, and there was 1139 megabytes used of the video memory. So yeah, hopefully we'll over the time we'll get used to seeing all these extra things, but I suppose now it's time to have a look at this game played on the new rig. Right then peeps, conclusion of the first of 4 videos, and I'm going to say the award and then we'll get on to why afterwards. The award is going to be, without a second doubt, you know, not a doubt in my mind, a solid gold award. Why? Because straight out of the box, the 7970 has taken the fastest performing graphics card on the planet, single core graphics card on the planet. So it's got one processor on it, so not the 6990, not the 590. The 7970 is the quickest one on the planet. The 3 gigabytes of video memory, I would say that's actually massive overkill really, unless you're going to be using it on massive resolution screens. But as with, well, you'll find out later on, we'll talk about that in a bit anyway, because this is quite difficult for me because the videos have been kind of scattered all about, so I've got things in my head that I want to talk to you about, but I can't because you need to watch the other videos to see it. So basically it's an absolute stormer, it's an absolute cracker. The cooler on it, or the actual, like the reference design cooler, is a million times better than the 6000 series cards, but it's still not as good as the 500 series in my opinion. Temps will hover around the kind of 75 mark until you really start pushing things, especially with overclocks I mean, but at stock it will hover around the 75 mark, and then it will keep it around that speed by making this fan spin up a little bit more. Now like I said, it is a million times better. Don't think that I'm bashing it, because it's a marked difference, but it's just that the Nvidia one is a lot quieter, but because it's quieter, it's a little bit warmer as well. So you've got that kind of balance. One's cooler, a bit louder, one's warmer, but it's a lot quieter. So it's that kind of age-old kind of balance, which way you want to go with it. Benching performance was brilliant. Game performance was brilliant. Like, games may have looked a bit lackluster, but to be perfectly honest with you, that's more a game thing than a card thing. Obviously the drivers are still very fresh. I've been, you know, rattling through different drivers with these. I think they've released another one already. I don't know what they're going to actually release on the NDA day. But things will obviously get better, not only because drivers will mature, but obviously because the game developers have to go off and do things as well. So there's one, do you know what I mean? The Nvidia fanboys are going to say it's the drivers, and then the AMD fanboys are going to say that it's the games. Well, to be honest with you boys, stop arguing, because depending on the game, it could be either. So it's one in one case, and then you'll go to a different game and it'll be exactly the opposite way around. So it's not really, there's no distinct answer. But all in all, it's an absolute cracker. I actually like the aesthetics of the card as well. I think we're back to, because I really didn't like, and I don't mind admitting I didn't like the 6000 series. They were too loud. I didn't think the performance was brilliant. It just wasn't good enough really. I don't think that the 5870 was awesome. I think the 6970, sorry, where they went with that name change was a bit I think really AMD have got things sorted again with the 7970. But one thing I will say, and this is just me, what's the way to put it? I'm kind of like, just kind of thinking forward, not necessarily, you know, bashing it or anything like that, but they have beaten the 500 series graphics cards from Nvidia. And it's brilliant that they have, but we know they are going to be getting replaced soon. So obviously this is all, you know, kind of hypothetical talk. We don't know whether, you know, how things are going to pan out. It's definitely going to be an interesting time when things start to change and other things get released. But that's just, I'd say that's a concern on my mind, because to be perfectly honest with you, I would really love for AMD to have it this time, and by that I mean have it and keep it for a bit. Just because I want to be singing a different story. I'm fed up with all the bloody AMD fanboys telling me I'm an Nvidia fanboy, and it's starting to do my head in. So I want AMD to do really well. That and the fact that I've given them such a kicking because of Bulldozer recently, I really want to be saying nice things about them. So at this present moment in time, at the time that I'm making the video, the 7970 is the fastest single core graphics card on the planet, and it's a very bloody good card too. And I mean very bloody good card. Triple screen support out of the box, but then again AMD have been doing that for such a long time. That's the reason why I've got an AMD graphics card in my main system. Just because I don't really game on it. I only need a low power graphics card because I render on my CPU, so I use it for triple screens. This allows you to game on triple screens, and to be perfectly honest with you, depending on how nuts you want to go about turning the stuff up, it should be good enough as well. If you want to see how good enough, go and check one of the other videos, because I've kind of overstepped a mark there already. Price stings a bit, I've got to admit. When the cards the prices were first leaked, we were being told £450 in the UK. Now that, to be perfectly honest, stings. Now they're meant to be dropping the prices to more around the kind of £380, £400 mark. And that is good, but a lot of retailers are already kicking up a fuss, the fact that the prices are changing so wildly, because I'm not sure how that's going to affect their markup, whether they've bought it on old prices and all that kind of stuff, I don't know. But I've spoken to a few retailers, and I've also spoken to a couple of vendors, because the price has been changed from AMD, not the actual brands. And a couple of the brands are really kicking off about it as well, the fact that it's going to be taking a good chunk out of their profit margins. So it's a very technical time. It's going to be a really interesting time as well. But it is really nice to have an AMD graphics card that I'm not necessarily, you know, I mean, I'm hounding it, kicking it into touch and all that kind of stuff, because it is amazingly good. Please, I'm going to eventually, because I've got to upload these videos at silly times when they do originally go live, but I am going to go back and post like links at the side so that you can go and check the other videos as well, because it would be good for you to have a look as well. If you found one of my videos for the first time though, please remember to comment underneath, because I always like feedback, and please remember to subscribe as well. Share, tell your mates, put it on Facebook, do whatever you want. But yeah, there's plenty more to come. Like I said, we've got overclocking an Eyefinity video, we've got a Crossfire including Eyefinity video, and then we've also got a Quadfire video. So there's a lot of stuff for you to watch, several different brands. So yeah, I have been a busy little camper. I'm going to leave this here, because I can see I've been chatting for quite a while anyway, and I'm going to get straight on and move on with the next stuff. So, for now at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with his first 7970 video, the ones that you've all been moaning at me I've not done yet, out.